What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is the day after signing day. We went 9 hours live yesterday. Appreciate everybody who showed up and supported. Had about like 17,000 on at one point. It was absolutely insane. Again, I appreciate every single person who took part in that event. We got Peter Ariz in the house. Pete, hop in, man. Are you feeling rejuvenated? Are you feeling,
I'm good, man. It was easy work compared to the year before. It was, since you were here, we had Mike pop in, we had Streeter, so we had some people on there. So it was easier than the year before for sure.
Listen, if you guys have not liked and subscribed to this video, jump on board, man. We're doing stuff like this every single day. Not quite 9 hours, but we are going daily and trying to do different things throughout the year. This community is enormous and getting bigger, so love you to be a part of it. Also on canesinsight.com, 7 million posts and counting, the #1 online cane community on the planet, which was bumping yesterday. But listen, big class. When you look at it, big picture, here's what I'll say. There's a scoreboard, right? So Mario says his goal is top 5 classes. His expectation is top 10 classes. And the class ended up ranked 14th. So I'm not going to come in here and spin it like it was a win, because the expectations have been laid out clear, not by the fans or people, behind a keyboard, but by the people in charge. So again, there's a scoreboard. Recruiting rankings have gotten better every year. Mario Cristobal looks closely at recruiting rankings. He pays attention. He knows about them. So I'm not going to move the goalpost on what the goals were. But looking at the class, there's some holes, there's some strengths. And there are some very, very good players who are going to be joining this team. And I'm excited to talk about them, learn about them, and watch them in their Canes careers.
So we'll go position by position here, D. We'll start, of course, at the quarterback spot because that's a very important position for Miami moving forward here. And we got Luke Nickel.
Yeah, so let's just start right there at the top with Luke Nickel. He reminds me a lot of Sam Howell. And I made that comparison on the podcast. He, to me, is the best quarterback that we signed during the Cristobal era. If you're talking about Emory Williams, Judd Anderson, Luke Nickel, I put Luke Nickel at the top just because he's the most complete of all of those guys. Compared to Judd Anderson, he's just much more productive at the high school level, better decision maker to this point, better processor compared to Emory Williams, a better athlete there. But with Nickel, again, the Howell comparison is the body type. He's thick. You see that deep throw right there. His ability to throw the ball in a bucket, make those bucket throws. Even though he doesn't have the most explosive arm, he just has phenomenal touch and accuracy. And also, like Sam Howell, he is very deceptively athletic. He's not a guy that you associate as a runner, but he can run. He has over 13 rushing touchdowns. You saw against American Heritage down here in Miami, he was able to get outside the pocket, make plays, throw the ball accurately. So to me, he is somebody who has a very, very high floor as a passer. He's got a great personality. He's won like crazy at Milton High School. He's currently undefeated, going for his second state championship. Toughness. Both of his dad and his brother were tight ends at the college level, so you see that growth potential and athleticism. He's got more than enough size. He's not an undersized player at all. So no trait is like out of this world, athleticism, out of this world size, out of this world arm strength. But they're all adequate or above. And then between the years, he's got exactly what you need.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys, D, that it's very tough to quantify his athleticism. Like if he went out there and he did combine testing, it wouldn't be anything that blows you away. But just watching him, like some of the throws he makes, that, he drops that one in a bucket there, a little bit off balance. It wasn't the perfect situation in terms of facing pressure. So a lot of the athletic stuff that shows up with him, to me, it's a little bit of, some of the Baker Mayfield in a sense, where like, again, not going to wow you, but then once those lights go on and it's game time, it's a different he's just a baller. So he makes really, big game winning type plays at the quarterback position. So, I think with him, again, it's tough to quantify the athleticism, but he's a guy who I think is pretty ready to play in college, right away with the right surroundings.
Yeah, the functional athleticism is the word that's been used to describe him, talking to people with the staff. And when you watch these films, you got to look at his eyes and his ability to really see the whole field of process. Compare him to like a Judd Anderson. Judd Anderson, I'm a Judd Anderson fan. I'm not sure he's going to be the guy for Miami. That's going to take some development and some leaps that you're just projecting. But he does have talent. I think more talent than he gets credit for: size, athleticism, arm strength. But if you compare a nickel to a Judd Anderson, even though really all of his traits are probably below, maybe accuracy is better and anticipation, but the size, athleticism, power, you give those edges to Judd. But when you look at nickel, the vision and the ability to process, I think, is what separates him from a Judd Anderson if you're just comparing last year or this year. Now, Judd may develop that. He's a smart kid working hard. He could develop into this offense. He's very much a developmental guy. But if you're talking about like showing up right away, I think nickel has a much bigger advantage when it comes to seeing the field and processing what's going on in front of him. Judd Anderson played basketball, but was a big man, catching the ball and finish. Luke Nichols, your field general, the guy that's going to see the whole floor, see the whole field, and deliver the football.
Yeah, and I like when he's on the move, eluding pressure, how he's able to kind of recompose himself and then, set his feet and try to make the play downfield. So,
and by the way, Elite 11 quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So, he's not.
And Mario mentioned that yesterday in his press conference.
Yeah, he's a composite 4-star. I know 247 has him as a 3-star. They have some questions on the tools. I think they're too low on him. I'm not saying he's like a 5-star like Underwood and some of these freaks of nature that you have at the top of this year's quarterback class. But I do think he is a solid 4-star. When you go to the Elite 11 and perform as a finalist, meaning you are one of the Elite 11 quarterbacks in the country in that setting, and then put the pads on and you're better in the pads than you are in sort of the beauty contest of an Elite 11, now you're checking both boxes. And I think with Luke Nickel, he does check those boxes. He was great in 7-on-7 as well, which, is not real football necessarily, but it does show some ability to process and do certain skills that do translate in pads. And of course, in pads, he's a extremely productive player and a winning player at a very high level of Georgia competition. So excited about Luke Nickel. I think he'll be our backup quarterback this year. I think he will beat out whoever's there to be the backup. And then the starter, again, I project someone coming in from the portal to take that job. I could be wrong, but the way I see it is portal comes in and then Luke Nickel wins the backup job.
All right, next position here, running back. We've seen historically Miami stack multiple backs in classes. It's tough not to with all the talent in the state of Florida and South Florida, and if you go get a guy nationally. But they felt really good about bringing in one guy in this class, a game breaker in Gerard Pringle.
Yeah, to me, this is funny. Like, he's a consensus top 10 player in the class. So, or at the running back position, right? So he's not somebody that's a sleeper. Alabama was who we beat out to get Gerard Pringle. But I think he's still kind of underrated in the fan base. I don't think people realize how impactful this guy is and can be next year and in the long run. To me, the thing that stands out about Pringle is his ability to move efficiently with his cuts, with his balance, while also having that 10.8 speed. He's probably faster than that now. He might be a 10.5 guy when he runs here in the spring. But look at this ability to just hit that top gear. There's a kickoff return, which he can do right away. I think he's going to be battling Chris Johnson Jr. from the jump. And if you're comparing the two, I think Nickel is just a little more advanced as a running back. Here you see him. He just, right there, that's a track meet. But he has the quickness and the efficiency to get to the track meet. I compare it to like a slugger in baseball, right? You see it in the minor leagues where a guy might hit 500-foot home runs, but then the scout will say, yeah, he has power, but he's never going to get to his power because he doesn't have the contact. Power doesn't matter if you don't touch the ball. So with Pringle, we know he has the home run speed to pull away from people, but he also has that efficient cutting ability and pure running. He has good balance, and he can break some tackles for not being the biggest guy that allows him to get to that runway and then run for long touchdowns. So I think this is somebody who behind our big offensive line is going to play right away. Highly productive for Armwood and Seffner, Florida. Tough guy, only 5'10", 185, but tough. The comparison I made, but you were right here on the show yesterday, and when I did the little cut up, look at that move right there. When I did the little cut up, Mario had the same comparison on the press conference, which is a Jahmyr Gibbs type player, similar size, similar speed, and similar combination of quickness and speed, and not just, just running around in a track meet.
Yeah, and Mario said yesterday that they felt really good about the the power and size that they have in the backfield right now, but wanted to add more game-breaking ability and speed. And obviously, as you guys have seen with his clips, that's what he does. And he's not just the guy who likes to bounce it outside, right? He's a lot of these cuts are between. A lot of these runs are between the tackles.
Roll back that last play against the Orange team if you can. I want to show that one again. So look at this open field cut right here. This is what separates track guys from game-breaking football players. Look at that cut right here. Boom. And then he goes outside without losing a little bit of speed. And then he's running the 100 meters right there. So I think that play and this highlight reel in general shows why Jared Pringle is so special. And again, I think this guy's going to make an impact on the 2025 team. I think he's going to be, let's say Jordan Lyle moves into the Damian Martinez role. Fletcher does what he does. And then Pringle competes with Chris Johnson to be that explosive third piece, that versatile piece, and then also to be the returner, because Pringle has return ability as well and experience there. And I think he's suited to win that battle because he is so productive already. You see him here breaking arm tackles and playing tough. He has that to his game. He's not the biggest, but he's not that much smaller than a Jameer Gibbs, probably similar size coming out of high school. So I think this guy's got a huge ability to make an impact behind an offensive line that will give him some room to run.
Yeah, really excited about him, without a doubt. D, you have a burner account in the comments. Drago says Pringle has Frank Gore ability with Willis McGahee speed.
There you go. Yeah, put him in the Canton, baby. Some folks who stay in Canton as Anajar and Levine accident attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. I should say right at the top, and we've already gone through the quarterback and the running back. This class reminds me very much of the season that we just saw, in that the offense I feel very, very good about. The defense I feel much less confident in. And the back seven is where I really have concerns with the class. So that mirrors what you saw on the field. And I think there is some correlation there between what happened with that group and what happened in recruiting, because a guy like a Gavin Nix was committed, smart kid. He saw how we were playing on defense, and he said, I didn't really want to be a part of that. Let me go to Oregon. That's, example of how maybe the defensive performance hurts you a little bit with the defensive players. But offensively, I feel excellent, and we've gone over Pringle and Nickel. I am a big fan of this wide receiver group, Pete. I think these guys, you don't have that dynamic catch the ball and go 70 kind of guy in this group. Pringle's that at running back. But I think in terms of guys that can get open, catch the ball, and put up big yards, like an Xavier Restrepo, like an Alan Hearns, guys like that who have been extremely productive for the University of Miami, I think we got three really, really good ones.
So who do you want to start with, D?
Let's start with Malachi Toney, since he was the drama yesterday, not signing right away, ultimately signing, so we could talk about him. Mario talked about him in his press conference. He is official. The reclassified player from class of 26 goes to 2025, American Heritage, son of Antonio De La Brown, local legend. This is a guy that we've been hearing about him since he was a kid, and he is just, you talk about a Restrepo replacement. I think Malachi Toney is it there. You see him catching the ball with his hands, tracking it. That's against Chaminade. All these clips are against big-time competition. He's been a big-time competitor his whole life. You see him running after the catch. He's not going to burn you with pure speed. It's going to be breaking tackles, lateral quickness, balance, and instincts when it comes to running after the catch. And then when the ball's in the air, tracking the ball, he has good, strong hands to pluck it, and he's a very good route runner as well. So you see him tracking the ball, making the catch, and look at the strength. Boom. He's finishing it. So he's somebody that is going to fight for every single yard, is very instinctive. He's been good since he was a kid. What jumped out with him is American Heritage this year, played St. Thomas Aquinas. That was the biggest game maybe in American Heritage history from a rivalry standpoint. Malachi Toney moves to the defensive side of the ball and seals the game at safety with an interception. Diabell, the quarterback for American Heritage, Texas commit, one of the best quarterbacks in the 26 class, gets injured in the playoffs. Who steps in at quarterback and leads them to wins? Malachi Toney, and he's throwing the ball, not just running. He's making plays throwing it. So Xavier Restrepo did similar things at Deerfield Beach Senior when Michael Pratt went down. It's just that football instinct, football ability. That's what this guy has, but he's been playing receiver his whole life, been playing receiver longer than Restrepo, who was actually a running back and defensive back in his younger days. Malachi Tony's been playing receiver at a high level. And I think even though he's reclassified from the 26 class, we're talking about a guy who's capable of making an early impact, as are really all three of these receivers.
A lot of toughness with Malachi Tony as well. So I think he comes in right away. And obviously he's played both sides of the ball, D, but he has the skill set that's perfect for slot. And you're asking a lot for him to come in and be the Xavier Restrepo replacement, but the skill set, I think it's there for it. So,
yeah, 100%. It's the mindset and your skill set and the mindset to me to be a Restrepo replacement. And look, that doesn't mean he's going to be one of the top 10 receivers, top 5 receivers in the country right away. But you need to replace that personality in the room. You got to have different types of receivers, and he fits that bill.
Now we'll go to, I think, one of my favorites in the class, Josh Moore. We had a chance to see him at, was it the Under Armour camp, D?
Yep.
In springtime, and really became a big fan of his, just seeing the body type up close and the physicality that he played with. Because I mentioned it yesterday, it's one thing to have the size that he has out there, but it's different when you see it in person, and that he's not afraid to use his body, right? Like there's a lot of guys who have that size and they don't know what to do with it, right? And it's not always something you could just grow into over time. I saw a commenter say, is this a Daryl Langham type player? I think you're underselling what he could be. You know, Daryl Langham had some memorable moments at Miami, but I think this guy's got a little bit more explosiveness maybe than Langham did. And a guy who I think could do more after the catch with it as well.
Play that first play again, because this is one of the best plays that I've seen in a long time. This is his sophomore year for Josh Moore. I'm waiting for his senior film to come up. I heard he has the best senior film.
He was hurt junior year, correct?
He was hurt junior year. Still was productive, but didn't have the greatest, highlight like he did his sophomore year where he had 1,000 yards. Look at that catch, one-handed behind him, and then runs it in. His senior film, which I'm waiting on, we'll put it on the show right when it comes out. I'm told from folks who've watched it at Miami that it's the best senior film in the state. And this was before signing day. This was when they were still battling for a lot of guys. They said that Josh Moore's senior film was the best senior film in the entire state, which is why Florida was making such a strong run at him. There you see it. Like you said, Pete, there's guys that with size that don't know how to use it. They don't have the coordination or the ball skills to get it done with the ball in the air. Sometimes they're straight line-ish. D. Wiggins comes to mind.
And by the way, this is not against great comp, some of these clips, but we saw it up close in the camp against some of the best guys, in the country at defensive back. So, and
his team's not that good. So he really carries his team at West Broward. I think he's the first West Broward guy I've even heard of doing stuff like this. Look at that, the run after catch.
The yards after catch is very impressive for that size to me, D.
Yeah, he reminds me of, you talk about, if someone compared him to Colby Young, that'd be the closest comp as far as guys we've had recently, but he's just a better player, better athlete than Colby Young. But similar dynamic. It's something that we really haven't had since Colby Young left. Horton can make tough catches, but I don't see him as a, adjust to the ball in the air, high point and pull it off someone's head kind of guy. He's more of a strong body catching slants with more, which Moore can do as well, but more on those fades is particularly dangerous. As a senior, again, I can't wait till the senior film come out, but I've seen clips playing safety, just like Malachi Tony played safety, just like Dalen Upshaw, who we talk about in a second, playing safety in the playoffs. Morris played safety in the playoffs as well, and he's taking picks to the house. This is 6'4", 205, maybe 210 pounds at this point type athlete, playing safety, taking picks to the house, doing backflips over people after he scores. This guy.
I love how he leaps and high points the football too.
Effortless athlete. He was dominant at the Miami Hurricanes camp, which is why Miami's been on him from the beginning. We've been reporting. I remember before the season, whenever we saw Jamie French and Vernell Brown and these guys, I said, yeah, those guys are big targets too, but don't forget about Josh Moore. This guy is a high priority for everybody in the big three, and he's not getting talked about. He was a 3-star at the time, now a consensus 4-star. I believe he's up to top 50 in the on 3. But we on this show, again, like and subscribe if you're not following us already. We had talked to people in the program, and everybody said, listen, man, the guy you got to talk about more is Josh Moore. Everybody's going to want him. UF made a push. UF got to commit. Miami flipped it. UF made a very strong financial run at Josh Moore, heading into signing day, able to hold on to Josh Moore. Big-time player, could play right away.
And then the guy who's, the lowest rated of this group is maybe your favorite guy of the bunch and one of your favorites in the class, I know, because we've been talking about him for months, and you've said he's been kind of slept on.
Yeah, this is to me the most underrated player in the class, Dalen Upshaw out of Phoenix City, Alabama. Miami gets him over Auburn. He was actually playing in the Alabama playoffs yesterday, and I was getting texts from my buddy who's in Alabama saying, it was on TV, and he was saying, man, Upshaw, this guy's really, really good. He was making plays yesterday. He's been making plays all year and in the playoffs. A highly productive dude. This guy had 1,000 yards last year with Camp Coleman, 5-star on the other side. He has, I believe he has over 1,000 yards already this year. He is the premier playmaker on their playoff team, is coached by Pat Nix, father of Bo Nix, former Auburn quarterback himself, and a former offensive coordinator for your Miami Hurricanes. Look at Upshaw. There you go on that clip. The ability to track the ball and then the strength to not only break the tackle, but just completely disregard it and go into the end zone. What I like about Upshaw on top of the production, which is we talk about production with these guys. Wide receivers are production position. It correlates. It's not about freaks. It's about craft. Upshaw can run routes. He's reputed. He's supposed to be a super hard worker. All three of these guys are known for caring about football quite a bit and working hard, which is essential at receiver. He could track the ball. He has great hands. He plucks the ball. And then again, the strength to break tackles. Strength is an underrated trait with wide receivers. You see it in the NFL. The strong guys are usually the ones that perform. You need that core strength to make sure you don't get knocked off balance by DBs, to make sure you can complete tough catches, and then after the catch, to not get pushed around. He has that there. You see him get right upfield, and that, talk about his speed. This is high top of the board Alabama competition, and he's running right past it. So short area quicks, hands, instincts, production, strength. This guy has all the things that when you look at the Puka Nakuas of the world, the Cooper Kupps of the world, the A.J. Browns of the world, the guys that really make it happen on Sundays, he has all those traits that will allow him to be successful at the next level. Extremely excited about Dalen Upshaw. I think you can play him in the slot, you play him outside. He can play all over.
All right, so moving along here to the next position group. I guess we'll round out the skills, D, before we get to the offensive line. And the tight end duo that they're bringing in, I'm a huge, huge fan of these two right here. Brock Schott, who's going to give you a little bit of everything, versatile weapon, plays defense as well in high school, is recruited by Notre Dame as a defensive player. But he's a guy who in the passing game, I think, can bring you a lot. They hand him the ball off the same way that Elijah Lofton has been utilized at times. Luka Gilbert, big boy, 6'7", 250. Some are going to throw him into that bunch as just like a blocking tight end. Mario was raving about his athleticism yesterday, so I think he could be the complete package there at tight end, and he's going to bring you that physicality, which you see on tape already.
Yeah, well, but by the way, the Loose Screws had a question. He says, so give us some info on the transfer portal quarterback, Lance being fired, or any information that doesn't have to do with the 2025 recruiting class. We're all still pretty pissed, LOL. Appreciate you, Loose Screws. Before I get into the tight ends, look, we just had signing day yesterday, so we're talking signing day very quick. Portal QB, I think we're going to get one. I think we're going to get a good one, and I think he's going to be the starter next year. I don't think we'll go with Emory. I could be wrong, but that's my best information. Names I personally like: John Mateer from Washington State, Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. The Lance Gidger being fired. I'm not going to advocate for anybody to get fired. I'll let other people do that. My expectation, though, by predicting objectively, based on what I know, I do think there will be significant changes to the defensive staff. So, with that said, tight end. Talk about Gilbert or Schott first. Who we're starting with, Pete?
Whoever you want.
Let's start with Gilbert here. So Gilbert, 6'7", 250, from Cincinnati, Ohio, Lakota West High School, big time school. He's playing real football. He's playing a real role. You can kind of project him to do exactly what he's doing in high school. In college, he's blocking a lot, but he's also catching passes. He's moving around. Like with him, his eyes, the willingness to block, the willingness to finish his blocks, and then the fluidity. So you talk a pure blocking tight end, that doesn't really help you. But a guy that can block with size and length and willingness, and then also has that fluidity to catch balls outside of his frame, to run routes, to adjust to the ball, that's what you want. I think with Luka Gilbert, there you see the hands right there. He's someone that has good hands. He's fluid in his movements. He's a former basketball player. Of course, the size is incredible. But he is not just somebody that is going to just to lumber up there. He can catch the ball. He is an athlete, and the size at 6'7", 250 is pretty rare. So I like Luka Gilbert to play a role pretty quick. I think we need another blocking tight end after having lost McCormick. You saw how much McCormick played, and you saw McCormick when he's in his role, he's very effective. He got 4 touchdowns this year. He blocked with our running game that was outstanding, and he did his thing. Look at this nice play by Gilbert right here. I think Gilbert's got more talent than McCormick, just more fluidity, more athleticism, and more size, but can play a similar role, which is an important role on a winning team.
That's an interesting thing to me about him, D, is that like you get these 6'6" to 6'8" tight ends. You expect him to be, lanky coming in, but he's already he's pretty big. From what I heard, he was around 250 when he came to Miami on his visit. And I mean, the way he plays, you see that he's got the strength. Or, obviously once he gets in the weight room, it could be really impressive.
Yeah, 100%. He's big. The stuff he's doing already without the weight room is nice because he has the willingness to block. He's not somebody they're trying to turn into a blocker. I mean, this guy is blocking already. This is big time, real big boy football here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And there you go. I mean, the finish is there. So put some weight on him, get him even more athletic and quick. And I think he's going to do some damage.
All right, next guy up here we have is Brock Schott. And this is a guy, D, that I think both you and I think this is potentially a top 3 player in the class.
Oh, yeah, this is just such a unique player. There you see him here, catching a screen, just completely dusting everybody. He is a legit 4.5, maybe low 4.6 type speed. You see it on film. His straight line speed's outstanding. 6'2", 6'3", about 215, 220. Good body. He's definitely not skinny. He's strong. There you see him again running after the catch, outrunning everybody. Plays both ways. Notre Dame liked him as a linebacker. Shows you how tough he is. Was extremely productive as a pass rusher. Here you see him. What I would say with him, comparing it to Elijah Lofton, who I think is a similar role as that sort of H-back versatile chess piece, both of those guys could have easily played linebacker. Very tough, very productive. Lofton's probably a little more laterally quick and a little wider and stronger. Schott is more linear in his body type and just his movements, but Schott's also probably a little bit faster too in a straight line. So I think they're mentally similar. Both great football players. You can put Schott on special teams right away. And if Lofton ends up playing more in the backfield, which I personally would like to see, I think you could see Schott playing more in that H-back, extra tight end role that you saw with Lofton playing more halfback.
All right, so let's go to the offensive line then. This is an interesting group. You have, you kind of have some buckets here. You have a guy in S.J. Alafatuli, D, who right off the bat, Coach Cristobal is saying, is one of the best football players he's ever seen. The athleticism jumps out to you. He seems like a guy who could play right away. Obviously, you have Ryan Rodriguez there, but Alafatuli could see himself in the mix. Max Buchanan is a very solid player that I think I'd be pretty surprised if he's not starting at some point within the next 2 years at Miami because of just how, versatile he potentially could be. And seems like he's coming in with a really good base. And then you have 2 really intriguing athletes, developmental guys, and Jaden Wilkerson and Demetrius Campbell that Coach Cristobal described them as power forwards coming to play offensive line. So let's get into this group.
Yeah, starting with S.J. Alafatuli. If you're talking about who in this class, and I'm talking about the whole class, not just the offensive line, who in this class has the best chance to be NFL draft pick high, first, second round, to be All-America, banner in the IPF, I think this is the guy. He's just your prototype center. You see the strength just tossing guys. Goes to a great program in Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman, maybe the best program pound for pound. We got Elijah Lofton from there last year. Test out of this world in lateral quickness drills. You see his ability to just move with suddenness and quickness, but then he can drive. He has power. He has finish. He's nasty. You see him right after the snap. He's crushing people. It's power and strength. He's strong in the weight room, but he also has that power in his hands and the explosiveness to knock people back. So he can knock them back, but then as you see, he can drive and he has the willingness to do so. Plus he has the athleticism to hit smaller targets. I think you put this guy at fullback next year in the goal line and he'll get the job done for you. Is he going to be starting next year? Ryan Rodriguez is a really good player. He's going to have a role. So I don't know how that all shakes out, but do I think this guy's capable of starting next year? Absolutely. I think of all these guys in this class, this is the safest bet, most likely to start next year, most likely to be a true impact star player. And the Polynesian pipeline and that Bishop Gorman pipeline, 2 pipelines that you'll want to continue. He's continuing them. Smart, tough, everything you expect from that pedigree.
Next up, a guy that, like I said, I'd be pretty surprised if this guy isn't playing at Miami within the next 2 years. Max Buchanan, someone who plays tackle at the high school level in Florida, but probably will slide inside of the next level.
Yeah, Miami really needed to juice up their interior line. We mentioned SJ. I thought they've been doing good at tackle in terms of having, Markel Bell last year. You got the 2023, you got a bunch of tackles that can go there. With Buchanan, he can play tackle. He does it in high school. He's athletic and quick, but I think inside his mentality really stands out. Seen him in person, 6'4", 275. Those measurements sound legit, maybe 280. He'll get up to 300 pretty easily, and it will look good on him. He's not going to ever be like a 350-pound mauler, but he's going to maul with technique, with bend, with tenacity, and with weight room strength. So I'm very excited to add this personality to the room. I think we just need a guy like this on the offensive line with some edge. It was just a missing dynamic there. You got some big athletes, big bodies. This guy's not huge. He's big enough. I mean, we won him over Clemson and Florida State, so it was not like we were recruiting with the small boys there. But he is somebody who I think mentality-wise is going to improve the room considerably.
Yeah, it looks like he has pretty clean footwork, man, for his for this stage of his career. So excited to see him develop. Next up here, and this is one of the 2 developmental guys, but Demetrius Campbell, and he's someone who was playing. He took a step up in competition level this year, I believe, right?
No, that would be Wilkerson.
That was Wilkerson. Excuse me.
As you'll see on this film when he's pushing around little kids.
But that burst right there in the open field, man, it just shows you the sort of fluid athlete he is at that size.
Yeah, former basketball player, played with Cooper Flagg up in Maine, the star for Duke basketball. So I think his full family, I'm talking about Demetrius Campbell, are basketball players. So he comes from that tradition. Super athletic, big. He's playing against small school competition at Orlando Christian. So it's hard to project, right? You can see the size. It's 320, 330, 6'6", all you need there. What I like about the film is mostly run blocking film is what you mentioned, Pete. He is he's got that burst upfield. He's also nasty. Sometimes these basketball players, you don't know how they're going to react to run blocking. He wants to run block. He's pushing guys. He's punishing guys. He's getting after it. The question with both him and Wilkerson, who you really treat them in tandem because they're both big basketball players from Orlando. How's he going to adjust to pass blocking real dudes?
Here's Wilkerson.
Yeah. So same thing. Wilkerson, big dude, 330 plus, basketball player from Orlando. This is his junior film. So he was going against small school competition at Lake Nona. His senior film, which isn't out yet, I've seen a couple games, was at Orlando Edgewater, which is a big-time program, and that allowed his ranking to rise once 247 saw him at that level. These clips, again, smaller school competition. Same thing as Campbell, likes to run block. I think Campbell's probably more of an aggressive run blocker than Wilkerson, more finish. Wilkerson's big, just more powerful. Wilkerson has some natural power to him to move guys. But with both of these guys, and look, they're 3-star guys. I think they're properly rated as 3-star. A lot of projection left that you can't say, hey, there's a 4-star, 5-star player. Would have liked one of those at tackle because of who Cristobal and Mirabal are. I think you'll see that next year in 26. But with these guys, who's going to develop as a pass blocker? They both have athleticism. They both have length, right? They're basketball players. That's what you expect. But who's going to be able to adopt that technique, the patience, the ability to handle true speed, true bull rush, true speed to power, dudes at defensive end? I don't know. Might be both, might be neither, might be one or the other. But that's what you're watching when they get to Green Tree and you see Mirabal really start to develop them. Who's going to become that pass blocker? Because I think run blocking, they're going to be okay just on sheer size, sheer athletic ability, and in the case of Campbell, want to.
Definitely. Before we flipped over to the other side of the ball, I wanted to talk about an event happening coming up here in the next few days for one of Miami's best players this year, man. Isaiah Horton putting on a great event here, teaming up with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Miami-Dade with a toy drive here. So the donation locations, you see the address there, First Round Management office is there, 5000 Southwest 75th Ave, right by Tropical Park. The other drop locations are Pop Subs and the Bezel Building downtown as well. So, if you want to help Isaiah here and his toy drive, these are the locations. You can contact Zach. You see the number there as well if you guys want to get involved. So, yeah, really cool event here. Isaiah Horton, awesome kid from all accounts, DNR, in our dealings with him. And also, of course, we've had him on the show with Kane's connection, and great season for him. Talk about a guy that has developed, man. As a recruit, wasn't the most heralded guy coming into the class. I believe he was a low 4-star, but has developed, taken that next step, and a great model for a lot of these guys coming in.
Yeah, man, that's awesome by Isaiah Horton. We interviewed him, great kid. Doesn't surprise me. Someone who really was reliable this year, really developed. We saw him in spring and said from day one that we saw him in spring, this guy's a different guy. And this just shows you the maturity. He's someone who's trending in the right direction. That direction will carry him to the NFL and a great life beyond. Awesome what he's doing for the kids. Please check out that event and see if you can help in any way.
All right, so we're going to the defensive side of the ball, D. Kind of similar here. We'll talk about all the defensive linemen, but in terms of the defensive ends here, it's a really loaded class, in my opinion, similar to what you're getting at tight end, with two guys in Herbert Scroggins and Hayden Lowe who could complement each other really well there.
Yeah, so when I talk about defense, I mentioned at the top, I think the defensive class lags well behind the offensive class. However, the defensive end class, I think, is premium, as good as you're going to get. This is A+, exactly what you wanted to hit here. You always want more, right? You want 3 5-stars every year. But in terms of like hitting what you need to hit, I think this defensive end class does so with Herbert Scroggins and Hayden Lowe. Let's start with Herbert Scroggins here. This guy is this is going to be your jack linebacker, your stand-up edge rusher. We'll see what scheme we play next year, but assuming same scheme or similar scheme to what we have now, he's going to be your jack linebacker, more of your pass rusher. He's not the biggest guy in the world, probably about 230 right now, 235, long arms, about 6'2", but man, the bend and the productivity. This is one of the most productive edge rushers in the history of the state of Georgia, leads the state of Georgia in sacks here. There you see him playing a linebacker on the blitz, finding the quarterback, sending the tight end line. He plays with very good power for someone who's not the thickest guy in the world. He knows how to use his hands. He knows, there you see him right there just throwing the lineman off. He knows how to use his hands. He knows how to set guys up. He has good leverage, good bend. So he really has the ability to not just out-finesse you, play with a little bit of power and strength, and that'll increase as he gets older and stronger. But here again, really playing linebacker, coming from way outside, finding his way to the quarterback. Guys that sack the quarterback a lot tend to sack the quarterback. It's just one of those things that translates. There you see him blocking kicks, another translatable skill, shows you get off, shows you motor, very good indicator. But we hear this kid talk after the signing day.
I think academically it was like really high rated in his class too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you could tell, man. It's just the way he conducts himself, his attitude. He's humble, but he's confident, and he knows he's going to get it done. He's loyal, never wavered once he committed. Really, really like this guy. I think this guy's going to help us in a major, major way and help reshape the culture of the defense, which I think is the first thing we need to do. Is not just scheme, whatever it is. You got to get better attitude on the field. There needs to be a culture that you can look and see and say, hey, man, this defense plays hard. They play smart and they're tough. We didn't see that this year. Beyond all the schematic issues, we need to see that culture going forward. I think Scroggins gets you closer in that direction.
Next up here, Hayden Lowe, a guy who is one of the highest rated players in the country at his position, and someone coming out of obviously a program at Oaks Christian that Mario Cristobal is very familiar with. Kayvon Thibodeau coming out of there, signing with Oregon when Mario's over there, and ended up being a top 5 pick. And there's a lot of talk that Hayden Lowe could be kind of next up in that sort of path.
Yeah, this is a guy that the staff internally thought was a first-round type talent, and 247, to their credit, really bumped him up on the senior film. They moved him up to the top 50 player nationally, which would be the highest rated player in the class for Miami based on 247's rankings. Here we're seeing his junior clips. Again, his senior clips is really open people's eyes, but his junior clips are good too. You see his size. I seen him in person. This guy's definitely 6'4", pushing 250. He looks like a grown man. He'll get stronger. He's your base end. He's not going to be that stand-up rusher like a Herbert Scroggins. This is more like a Ruben Bain type at 50, but very athletic. What I love about this guy and Scroggins, there you see, I mean, it looks the part. What I like about this guy and Scroggins, both of them are known for their motor and known for their production. Lowe had 16 sacks this year. But watch him the game film, not just the highlights. He's relentless. He gets after it. He's tough. When you have two guys like that with high motors, it's going to translate, right? You've seen a lot of defensive end film where the flashes look great. Then you watch the game film and you're like, where is this guy? I saw him get a sack. I saw him get a pressure. Every other play, he was out to lunch. Lowe's not like that. This guy's relentless. You combine that with the frame, with the athletic ability. Number 3 edge rusher in the country, according to 247. Miami definitely agrees with him, with them internally. Big time get for Miami. And I think this is someone who could play right away.
National recruit, man. So that's a great recruiting battle to win.
No question. And I hope it works out like Thibodeau. Thibodeau's a top 5 pick playing for the Giants. So wouldn't mind getting a top 5 pick out of this guy right here. Hayden
All right.
Lowe.
Next up here, a very versatile defensive lineman across the front there. Micah Newton out of Newberry, Florida. A guy whose senior film is very impressive. It came out yesterday, so here it is.
Yeah, so defensive tackle, my view on this position, I think you got to get 5 stars here, 4 stars like we did last year. That's what Georgia does. That's those big guys, you just got to get them. Because you're not getting those automatic lock stud war daddies that everybody is trying to get. You're relying more on projection here. So Micah Newton, I agree. His film is as good as it gets. This guy is athletic. He's quick. He's productive. He just has a suddenness to him and a fluidity that allows him to play all over the front and get pressure, plays defensive end, plays tackle. He can stand up. He can do a lot of different things. The question with him is very simple. He's 260 pounds. He's 6'3". He's got an athletic-looking frame. You could see a world where he gets up to 300. Simeon Barrow had a much bigger weight gain, and he's a first-team all-conference for Miami right now. It's not a stretch to say he's going to get there. That's why Miami offered him. That's why NC State had him initially before we flipped him. But there is a projection involved. So I'm just cautioning everybody on the defensive tackle class, kind of like with the offensive tackle class. You see the path to success, but there's more projection than with like a Francis Mauigoa or a Justin Scott, right? So you'd like to get those guys and then put projectable guys around them. This class at offensive tackle and defensive tackle lacks the sure thing top 10 picks that you like to get and that Georgia and schools like that get. But if Micah Newton gains weight, gets up to 300, if you told me right now, Micah Newton's going to get up to 300 and it's going to be a good 300, I'm feeling great because he can do everything at defensive tackle. Look at him in coverage there. This is a very, very athletic, talented player.
There's some jokes there with seeing him in coverage, D.
I know. I was ready to make one.
Jokes to be made.
Looked more fluid than Messidor, that's for sure.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of his. This next guy too, the athleticism is screaming with this guy, as we'll talk about here in a second with some of his verified stuff. But again, another guy that needs to be projected, but he's coming from a great program to project from, and that's Shaman Amadana.
Yeah, love the potential of Dante Simpson. Again, similar to what we talked about, and you just said projection. So take that in mind. But what you do have are exceptional flashes. There you see him right there. This is a guy's body type comparable to John Ford. I saw David Lake make that comp. I like it. Pete, I know you know John Ford, Green Bay Packers draft pick for the Miami Hurricanes. He has that kind of body type. He's 16, so he's very young, but he also has athleticism. You see it here. We saw him in camp. This guy is very, very athletic, especially for a 16-year-old growing into his body. Returned to pick for a touchdown on national TV. They had a 3-cone drill at the Under Armour camp. He had the fastest 3-cone at that camp of anybody in the country. So they time him up, and then they after all the camps are done, they say who did the best of all the different camp stops. This guy at almost 300 pounds, I believe might have been over 300 at that time, had the fastest 3-cone change of direction drill of any offensive lineman, defensive lineman, anywhere of all the camps. And this includes like edge rushers that could be 200 pounds, 210 pounds, and he's doing this as a big defensive tackle. So the quickness is there. The size is there. He's young for his grade. And when you just watch the highlights, if someone told you this was a 5-star, 4-star player, you'd believe it. Now he's not as consistent. So that's why the 3-star, I think, is where he's at, because he doesn't consistently do it. But if you can harness the flashes and the athletic ability and the size as he gets older, still a young player for his grade, you can see the upside.
Yeah, I'm all in on it. Again, it may not be a thing that happens right away, but you see Ahmad Moten. It's taken him a couple years, and now you're starting to see it more consistently from him. So, hopefully there's patience with him.
Absolutely. By the way, with Micah Newton, maybe even with Simpson, want to bulk him up, send him to Islas Canarias, about 5-minute drive away from campus, in Dayland Mall, in the dining pavilion, the food court. Authentic Cuban cuisine, 40-year history, the best croquetas in Miami, voted every single year. This is high-end stuff. You go to the restaurant out west. It is the most famous, most, just culturally relevant Cuban restaurant. If you talk about Cuban people, they'll tell you Islas Canarias is the spot to go for croquetas, for big meals, for everything. Trying to cater for a party, got a Christmas party coming up, Hanukkah party, whatever it is. Go to Islas Canarias, load up. Maybe not the ham croquetas.
I was going to say Hanukkah.
But everybody's different.
The ham croquetas.
You can get the chickpea croquetas. They got different types. They got bacalao. They got all kinds of croquetas. Go to Islas Canarias in the Dayland Mall dining pavilion. Load up. It's the best in the country.
Appreciate the love, TY. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel as we continue to go through this Miami Hurricanes signing class. Linebacker D got the surprise of the day here at this position. And, other than that, I think maybe a bit of a disappointment. As a whole, you miss out on a couple other targets. But let's get into Kellen Wiley and Ezekiel Marcelin. So
this is a class that could have been disastrous, and it could have been really good. I think it lands somewhere in the middle here. When you talk about Kellen Wiley on signing day, landing him. Oh, by the way, look at my man Muhammad Hussein. Appreciate your support. He says, Islas Canarias, my second home, the best Cuban food. Appreciate you. So Kellen Wiley really gave us some juice on signing day. We did a 9-hour show. We needed a surprise. This was it. Senior riser, played his junior year, I believe, at Hillsborough High, and was not as well known. Transfers to Sefner Armwood, a traditional power, and completely blows up. This was the Norland game in Travis Powell, Miami, where he really showed his stuff. He's demolishing somebody there. This is a 6'4", 220-pound player. So he's built like an edge, but he's an actual linebacker. He played linebacker in high school. Very productive, again, as we watch his senior film. Athletically, at 6'4", 220, throws the javelin, triple jump, long jump. I love all that stuff. That's a big indicator of NFL potential when you have all these different track events and you have that length and body type. He's got that. When you watch him at linebacker here, he's not just an edge that you're projecting. He's a real linebacker. There you see him in coverage. You see right now he's just kind of hanging around. Guy coming, boom, sends him into the next week, and the ball goes flying. So the strike is there. He can run. He's athletic. He can rush off the edge if you need him, but he is a true linebacker. You've seen him in coverage. You've seen the ability to snare the ball and take it the other way. And just the power, man. I mean, he is knocking guys back when someone tries. When you talk about collisions, he is a knockback collision player, which is not always the case for 6'4" guys because they don't have the leverage.
I was literally going to say that he plays with really good leverage for being a 6'3" guy.
And then look at here in coverage, taking a pick six effortlessly to the house. He can go sideline to sideline, but he has strength too. I always say there's a difference between power and strength. Power is like the collision. Power is the knockback. That's explosiveness. That's lower body. That's leverage. That's hands. There's a lot to it. He has that. He also has strength. I mean, he's tossing running backs. This guy's not going to miss a lot of tackles if he gets his hands on people. So really excited about the trajectory of this player. He's a 4-star player. Nationally, started off as like a no-star and ended up being a 4-star because the senior film was so good. You beat out Texas for him, which I believe Texas finished with the #1 class in the country overall. So that tells you the sandbox that you're playing in to get a Kellen Wiley. When Texas with the #1 class in the country is coming down to Tampa, Florida, it tells you something. But this was a 4-star player. He was the 7th-ranked linebacker in the entire nation, according to On3. So huge get. Shout out to his dad, Kellen Wiley Sr., who's on the CanesInsight.com message boards, the biggest free community on the planet. You got recruits parents on there, and of course, a ton of fans. If you're not signed up for the CanesInsight.com message, just pull it up while we're talking. If you're not signed up for the CanesInsight.com message boards, you're missing out. 7 million posts and counting. It's just an insane community. You plug into those forums, you'll be talking all day about the portal, about recruiting, about football. We got a politics board if you want to go that direction, all kinds of stuff. Game day. I mean, this is just where Canes fans congregate. You see it a little bit on Twitter. You see a little bit on Facebook. You see it on YouTube, but you really see it in the forums. Pete, click on the forums here so you can just see some juice while we're looking at that. By the way, I appreciate you, Muhammad Hussein. Talk about Canes football again. Appreciate the support. Like and subscribe. This community out here is unbelievable. And again, I encourage everyone in this community to join that community right there on the boards. A lot of the overlap, but not 100%. Look at that activity, man. There's about 1,000+ people on all day responding. You get about 100,000 individuals over the course of a year, millions, tens of millions of hits. This thing is extremely active, and it's Canes all day, 24/7. All right, so switching gears from Kellen Wiley to Ezekiel Marcelin, totally different player. Not the physical freak, but a very productive, highly experienced player. So Ezekiel Marcelin, guy we saw in the camp. He's been starting at Central since his freshman year, which would tell you something. Best program in South Florida year in, year out. Certainly the best program in Miami-Dade County. And he's been a starter for 4 years. Laterally quick. I think he did very good in the quickness drills when he's tested, even though he's not a physical freak, but quickness is important. A linebacker, he's got that. And then just between the years, man, this is a guy who knows how to play, very smart. You see him there. He knows how to get through traffic. He's a good tackler, has some strike. Picked Miami over Penn State, Stanford. Teams going from all over the country to try to get this guy. Miami keeps him home. He, to me, you think of a Corey Flagg, he's kind of in that category, maybe probably a little faster, a little more talented, but somebody who maybe, he doesn't win the beauty contest. That's why he's a 3-star player.
Could have used a Corey Flagg at times this year, though.
Yeah, you got to go in the right direction, and you got to find the football, and you got to know what you're doing. And this guy knows how to play linebacker.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's played so much on such a great team should go a long way, as you said, D.
But look, again, this is a position where losing Gavin Nix to Oregon, I think, really hurt us. A long-time commit from IMG because he has the IQ, he has the speed, sideline to sideline. There's a reason why Oregon, number 1 team in the country, comes all the way to Florida to get a Gavin Nix. That one hurt. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. That one hurt. You also lost TJ Alford on signing day. He wasn't a commit that flipped. He was someone you were trying to flip from Ohio State. Got close, but didn't get it done. Great size, speed player from Vero Beach, Florida. So this class could have been great, and it could have been terrible if you didn't get Kellen Wiley.
Yeah. Ends
up being, okay. But I think we need to do better than okay to get where we need to be, given our struggles on the field at this position. We need to get someone in the portal, and we'll talk portal every day for the rest of the year. We need someone in the portal who can play sideline to sideline and just be that tackling machine that you see when you watch the Eagles and see Nakobe Dean. We need a guy like that. Not everybody is All-American, of course, but somebody that plays in that style is really the captain of the defense and gets everybody in line.
So another spot here, the secondary, that may be a bit underwhelming considering what we saw on the field this season. Will be big in the portal, I'm sure, but I like who they got, D. I would probably have wished that they would have landed at least one more instant impact player from this group, just because Amari Wallace coming from Central, the health we have to see where that's going to be at. Obviously it was a broken leg, but when will he be ready to start assimilating himself and things of that nature? Jabari Antoine, big fan of his. Bryce Fitzgerald, think he's a dynamic player, but of course, like you said, the physicality, that's going to be a big thing that we need to see once he steps on campus. And then Ewald, I think we might be sleeping on him a little bit, although he's a 4-star.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at this because I was very disappointed with this class overall, just knowing what we needed, knowing how we struggled on the field. Like, as I sit here and look at this graphic, I do see 4-star graphics, right? All 4 of these guys are 4-stars. It's funny. I didn't see it that way. I do think we need a little more athleticism at this position. I've been saying this is a position where you just need juice, particularly corner, and we don't have enough super physically talented guys. They're hard to get in the portal. You really got to get them in recruiting. OJ Frederick, an example of how you get it in recruiting. Hard to get in the portal. You get guys that can play, but not the super athletes. It's kind of like defensive tackle. You want the freaks, you got to get them here. Looking at this class, the the thing that concerns me is you have your two best players, in my view, hurt. So Jabari Antoine has a torn ACL, projected to make a full recovery. No one's seeing this as a situation where he's going to lose a step or anything like that, like one of these catastrophic knee injuries. No one's saying that. I have not heard that. I think everybody expects him to be full go. But, you got to bake that in. Amari Wallace, same thing. Everybody expects him to recover all the way. He's been recovering very well from what I'm told, but he broke his leg. So your two best guys that you feel best about on paper are both injured. So that kind of dampens a class that you really need instant impact guys. Well, let's start with Jabari Antoine here, Pete. Somebody who highly rated guy, was a top 75 player before he got hurt. Length, 6'2", long arms, 6'1", 6'2", long arms. Played quarterback, played cornerback, played safety. You see the long arms there.
He's got a baby face, man. So that's what I look at it. I'm like, man, he's got room to grow.
And they say this guy's a great kid. So the intangible stuff you feel good about based on everything you're hearing. But you got him at safety right here, ranging, finding the football, making the play. So he has ball skills. He's a quarterback, so he knows his way around the field. He knows angles. He knows how to play. And then the length is going to make a big difference. And in general, he's from New Iberia, Louisiana, highly rated guy. Those guys are usually pretty good. Louisiana does not produce a lot of bust in the secondary. I went to Louisiana last year to get Dylan Day, who looks like he's going to be a pretty good player, definitely a great special teams player. Antoine, much more highly rated player than Dylan Day. You steal him from LSU, which is very difficult. But somebody, look at the patience there. This is a guy, I think, if he's healthy, he could play right away for you. It's just all about the health with him. And again, I haven't heard anything crazy about the injury other than it's a torn ACL. It's a serious injury. He's young. He should recover well. And if he does, this is someone who may look back on and say, wow, we really needed a premier corner with length and talent in this class. And we got one with Jabari Antoine.
Next up, we will go to Chris Ewaldy, a guy that, like I said, I feel like maybe we've been, underselling what he could be. Look, we've seen him in person. Has the size, the length, the experience, man, at this position. You talked about it yesterday, and we say it all the time. You want to take a bet on athleticism, but this is a guy who is pretty well-rounded already and probably could play pretty early because of the competitiveness that we've seen from him in his high school career.
Yeah, that last rep you just showed, just tremendous. He's very patient. You see him here, patient, find the football. Very well-schooled corner. Guy's been good for a long time. 6 foot, but with a 6'3" wingspan. I saw him in person. He's skinny, but I think his size is going to get in there. It'll be like a DJ Ivy. Maybe not that elite size, but he's going to be pretty big and long. Yeah, I think this guy's a very good get. Definitely take. You beat Georgia for him, and Georgia wanted him bad, so that should tell you what kind of player you're talking about. Originally committed to Jim Harbaugh. You see, he has quarterback traits, the footwork, the ability to find the ball. He's more of a pass breakup guy than than an interceptor. He's got a ton of pass breakups in his career, about 40, going against big time competition, winning against Jeremiah Smith every single day in practice. So yeah, this is a guy you want to get. I think he's going to help your room immediately. He could play right away, and you're excited to get him. Overall, I like, I want us to get some more, you see him breaking on the ball. I want to get more athletic guys in this room that play both ways, like Frederic did, where he was a receiver, returner, corner, and then when he focused on corner, he exploded. I like guys in high school that play corner, that play receiver, that return, that play other sports. That's sort of my preference at the corner position. But this is a guy that you take every time. He plays at a high level competition. And maybe he could have played offense at a school that wasn't as, didn't have JoJo Trader and Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver.
And not every guy's going to pick it up the way OJ did. Just because they're good athletes doesn't mean it's always going to be a perfect transition to corner in terms of like being ready to go technique wise. I think there's something to be said about this guy being a skilled and like a well-trained corner is what I was looking to say, because a guy like that can be an instant impact player, and there's not as much of a learning curve. Yes, the speed of the game, but having played down here and seeing guys like JoJo and Jeremiah Smith in practice every day, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to him or an eye-opening experience.
No, he'll be ready to play, and I think I get high floor. There you see him going in the run. I think a high floor player. This guy, I'd be surprised if he was just a total bust. I think this guy's gonna be a good player for Miami and someone you can count on. And we need guys that can cover in that secondary. You can never have enough, and this is one more to the room. Question here I want to get to from TY. That's a couple times. What happened with DJ Pickett? as I understand, that was very much a business decision. And I just think when it comes to Miami, the number he gave Miami, I don't know what LSU gave him. The number he gave Miami didn't match what you knew you were going to get for him. If it hits, this guy's going to be unreal. DJ Pickett, he's 6'5", 6'4". He runs a 4.3. He's got a lot of athletic ability. So if it hits, this guy's going to be insane. Not as high of a floor. He's got a little bit of a low floor. Maybe he ends up being just a wide receiver or a tweener. You don't know. It's harder to project him at the number he's talking about. I think that number is better served in the portal with a premier player or with a Ben Hanks, who we didn't get either. Because Ben Hanks to me was really the prize of yesterday's defensive back class. Didn't get it either. So, that's why we're in this situation where we're not loving what happened at DB. But I think you don't solve that situation by going crazy for a Pickett and then not leaving yourself money in the portal. So it's not the plan to save money for the portal, but at the end, you don't want to get desperate and use your portal money to get a player just to make a splash who doesn't match the projection. The payment doesn't match the projection.
Right. All right. Next up here, I guess we'll go with Amari Wallace here, as he's a guy who didn't play this year. Of course, like we said, broke the leg. But before that was an absolutely premier player down here and someone that was highly coveted by programs across the country.
Yeah, I mean, same situation as Jabari Antoine. This guy, if those two were healthy, I'd feel so much better about this class. And again, no one's saying that they're going to be gone or diminished. I think everybody expects them to be fine. It's an unknown, right? It's like D tackle or offensive tackle. You're projecting a comeback. With Amari Wallace, a lot of Cam Kitchens comparisons. Coach Duasso had both of these guys on the 7-on-7 program, and he's made that comparison. You see the ball skills there. I think what separates Wallace from Kitchens, I think Kitchens is probably a better, just pure rangy ball hawk safety, and he's a little bigger. With Wallace, he has the ability to play corner, mostly nickel corner, which I think Kitchens didn't have that sort of coverage ability, man coverage ability. Wallace has some of that, but plays the game exactly how you want it to be played. There you see the physicality and toughness. I mean, he's a striker, really goes out there looking to hurt people, attacks the ball, has great instincts, sees it fast, has no hesitation when he sees it. He's extremely aggressive and trusts his instincts. 4-year starter at Central, like Ezekiel Marcelin. That's extremely telling. And what I love about Wallace, on top of just the way he plays, which again, I think our secondary desperately needs guys with an edge. We just don't have guys like that have the instincts and the edge. But what I like about him is this guy's blocking kicks every week, it seems like. He's got that first step quickness, that motor, just the timing, right? The feel for the game to do that consistently. So you see when he gets the ball, he can return it. So I just think if you look at what our secondary needed, it needed really a guy like this. I always use Jaquan Johnson as an example of somebody who's like a 7th round pick, not like a Sean Taylor or anything like that, but someone if you plucked and put on this 2024 defense would have made a big difference and maybe would have gotten us over the hump to the ACC championship, because we just needed a guy like that. Amari Wallace has similarities to what you see with Jaquan Johnson, just because they're football players that maybe not have the perfect size, but they're quick, they're smart, and they can tackle.
I have a feeling Amari Wallace is a sort of guy, and again, I don't have any info on his recovery, but he's an early enrollee, and I have a feeling that he's the type of guy who we'll be hearing about in a bank update in late spring, early summertime, where you're saying, listen, guys, Amari Wallace is recovering really well from his fractured leg, and he's starting to look really good in these workouts. His twitchiness is back, and they expect him to, make an impact this year. So hopefully that's a sort of update we get, but he just strikes me as that sort of player.
Yeah, I hope so. By the way, like and subscribe to the show. You'll get updates like that. We got 1,000 people on the live, so we're rolling. Again, appreciate everybody. OJ Frederic, if you get those of you who've been here for a long time, you remember right when he got here, the first time you heard OJ Frederic was doing good in practice and opening eyes was right here on the bank for free. Ended up being all ACC freshman of the year. So very excited to see who hits first. And when they do get here and start working out, you will hear about it first on the bank.
And then the last guy here wrapping up this defensive backs class, Bryce Fitzgerald out of Columbus. The speed, the athleticism is evident. He's a guy who picks off a lot of passes as well. The physicality is not something that necessarily shows up on tape. Not saying that he is not capable of it, but within the scheme at Columbus, he's not asked to necessarily tackle too much, but we see his ability as a returner here.
Yeah, this guy is one of the probably the most interesting players as far as boom or bust. What do you do with this guy? One of the best athletes, if not the best athletes in South Florida. He's a great basketball player as well. He'll be part of Columbus State Championship. He is part of Columbus State Championship team this year as a basketball player, but you see him as a kick returner. I think this is one area where I don't know where this guy's going to play, but where I do know he's going to make an impact is you put him at kick return with Gerard Pringle, you improve at that position. Here you see him in coverage reading the quarterback. His ball skills are just supreme. Had 10 interceptions as a junior, had a bunch more as a senior. He's still playing, trying to win a state title. There you see the return ability as well and the speed. This is a guy who ran 4.4 verified at the Under Armour camp in spring, so he has the speed. He's not a small guy. He's a solid 5'11 with some thickness and some long arms. Played safety. I'd be shocked if he plays safety at the next level because I just don't see the physicality with him. They're going to try him at corner. He played corner at their camp, and they liked him. He's 4'4", so he has the speed. Maybe he's a CJ Henderson type. I know you made that comp yesterday, Pete. Mm-hmm. He's not the pure speed of CJ Henderson, which, as you noted, but just in terms of a guy that wasn't that physical at Columbus, more of an offensive player at Columbus, in fact. Played less defense than Fitzgerald, actually. But someone who overcame the lack of physicality by just being a great athlete at corner. Maybe you see that with Fitzgerald, and he toughens up a little bit. But if he doesn't get that toughness, I think you just put him a wide receiver, let him make plays, and then help you in the kicking game.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I think that speed is just like that speed it pops out on the tape to you. And again, some of this stuff is against some of the best teams in South Florida too. So he's running away from other fast guys in these clips. And again, always around the football, man. We need a free safety back there, a guy who's just always around the football. So, and he has the speed to match up with it. D. Like, I think Mish Powell could have been that guy, but I just don't think the foot speed matches up with what his football intellect is. And I think Fitzgerald could play a role like that.
Yeah, Fitzgerald definitely a better athlete. It'll just come down to the physicality. So with a lot of these guys in this class, it's the projection, right? I mean, they're all projections. Sometimes the guys you think are safe bust, and sometimes I think the guys you think are terrible, hit big. So they're all projections. There's no sure thing in this game. But in terms of guys I think have more projection than most and could swing this class one way or the other, the offensive tackles, Wilkerson and Campbell, can they become starter level? They have the talent. Can Dante Simpson get more consistent at defensive tackle? Can Micah Newton gain weight at defensive tackle? Does Kellen Wiley continue his trajectory from where he's a senior to college? And then does Bryce Fitzgerald tackle? And finally, Jabari Antoine and Wallace, so they come back for their injuries. If the answer to those questions is yes more than no, it's not going to be all yes. But if the answer is yes more than no, this class could really, really overperform and be a great class. If the answer is no more than yes, it goes the other direction. But a lot of talented kids here, a lot of solid players who won state championships, multiple state championships, highly productive players of the year, and then athletes as well. So this is a class that it's a disappointment because, look, there's a scoreboard. You rank 14th. I don't think that's a mirage. Maybe you could sign some more players to boost it up, but I think that class is, I'm not going to say it should be a top 10 class. I think it is what it is. But it has a chance to overperform, just like it has a chance to underperform. If you go to the higher end of the range of outcomes, this could be a really good class. I know there's some good players in here who are going to help and be fun to watch as Miami Hurricanes, and you may be watching it in some Miami Hurricane team store gear, Pete. So as you fumble around for your phone here,
man, shoot.
Hopefully, Gerard Pringle's not fumbling like that.
No, yeah.
But as you're watching these guys, you get some Hurricane team store gear. It's Christmas season. So number one is cold. Number two, you're buying presents. So the Miami Hurricane team store, Miami's official retail apparel company. They got the location on site right across the street from the University of Miami, next to the Thesis Hotel on South Dixie Highway. But if you don't want to go there, MiamiHTS.com. Use promo code INSIGHT20 in store or online. You get 20% off your first item. And look at the holiday gift store guide or holiday gift guide here. You got all kinds of stuff that you can get for your loved ones. Really impress them with some Hurricane gear. Get them excited and get yourself something too. Everybody wins. Promo code INSIGHT20, 20% off your first item. like and subscribe to this podcast. Sign up for CanesInsight.com, 7 million posts and counting. And join the conversation, man. We're going to keep this thing rolling all year, every day, every weekday, plus the weekends a lot of times. Recruiting, portal, team, class of 26, portal, bowl, you name it. We'll be talking about it on Canes Insight. Appreciate everybody. Go Canes.
Go Canes. Like and subscribe.